Join me as I dive deep into the history of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to uncover the shocking truths that you probably haven't heard before. Today, we're going to explore one of the most pivotal moments in world history, a moment that changed the course of humanity forever. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are etched in our collective memory, but there's more to the story than you might think. As we delve into the lesser-known facts surrounding these events, get ready to have your perceptions challenged. From the moral implications of using atomic weapons to the devastating impact on civilian lives, we'll question whether the bombings were truly necessary. The year was 1945, and World War II was raging on. The Allies were making progress, but the Japanese refused to surrender. The question on everyone's mind was, what would it take to end the war? In the next few minutes, we'll address the very same question, exploring the motivations behind the bombings and the devastating consequences that followed. We'll explore the moral dilemmas faced by the decision-makers and how their choices continue to shape our world today. The numbers are staggering. Tens of thousands of lives lost, cities reduced to rubble, and a generation left to pick up the pieces. But was it necessary? Was there another way to end the war without resorting to such destruction? These are the questions we'll be answering today as we uncover the shocking truth about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The clock was ticking, and the world was watching. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and the decision to drop the bomb would change everything. In the eyes of many, the bombings were a necessary evil, a harsh but effective way to bring a swift end to the war. But as we'll see, there's more to the story than that. There are stories of courage, of sacrifice, and of survival that will leave you speechless. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? We'll hear their stories and explore the human cost of these events. For the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the bombings were not just a historical event, they were a lived experience. We'll explore the historical context of the bombings, including the political climate, scientific advancements, and personal stories that bring it all to life. You'll hear the stories of survivors like Tsutomu Yamaguchi, who lived through both bombings, and of Dr. Nagai Takashi, who risked everything to help those in need. These are the stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And now, to the most important question. Why was it really decided to use atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? When we look at the situation at the time, it is clear that Japan was militarily weakened, and the progress of the Allies was undeniable. Yet, the Japanese leadership refused to surrender. Some historians argue that the use of the atomic bomb aimed to intimidate the Soviet Union and demonstrate the new military power of the United States. This factor could have played a key role in the strategic planning, where it was necessary to show the world, and especially the Soviets, that the United States was capable of using nuclear weapons. Was there another option? Some experts believe that the war could have ended even without the use of atomic weapons. At that time, Japan was already exhausted by intense bombing, blockades, and a lack of resources. There were also signs that the Japanese leadership might start negotiating peace, especially if the continuation of the empire could be guaranteed. Nevertheless, a nuclear strike was chosen. Now, let's consider the human costs of this choice. The survivors who found themselves at the epicenter of the explosions faced not only immediate destruction but also long-term consequences of radiation sickness, genetic mutations, and psychological trauma. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were affected not only physically but also socially. Entire communities were disrupted, generations marked, and questions of justice and responsibility remain alive. Let's also look at the story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi, a man who survived both nuclear explosions. Yamaguchi provides us with a unique perspective on the horrors of these attacks. His story is not just about survival, but also about the determination to alert the world to the dangers of nuclear weapons. After surviving the first explosion in Hiroshima, he traveled back to his hometown of Nagasaki the next day, where he survived the second nuclear attack. Yamaguchi's story points to the incredible strength of the human spirit, but also to the destructive potential of nuclear weapons. Another inspiring figure is Dr. Nagai Takashi, a physician and radiologist who, despite suffering from radiation sickness himself, tirelessly helped the victims of the bombing in Nagasaki. His dedication to saving human lives, even under the worst conditions, is an example of courage and humanity. So, what was the real reason for using the atomic bombs? Some argue that the bombings were a way to bring the war to a swift end and prevent even greater losses on both sides. Others, however, point to political motivations, the intimidation of the Soviet Union, and an attempt to strengthen the position of the United States in the post-war world. And here we come to the most shocking revelation. Despite what many believe, the decision to use the atomic bombs was driven not only by military needs but also by a strategic game between superpowers. It is not just a story about the quick end of the war, but also about the beginning of a new era, the era of the Cold War, where nuclear weapons served as a symbol of power and control. So, was the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki necessary? It depends on the point of view. Some documents suggest that Japan was close to surrender, while others claim that even bloodier battles could have occurred on the Japanese islands. What is undeniable, however, are the tragic consequences of these decisions, which continue to shape our world. When we reflect on the moral questions raised by this event, we should remember that it is not just a historical event, but also about human lives that were irretrievably lost or forever changed. The nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was not just the end of World War II, but the beginning of a new age, where nuclear weapons shape geopolitical relationships and raise questions of ethics, security, and international politics. I would be glad if you share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.